Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Smart Money Mo, and in today's video we're going to be doing a full lower time frame confirmation guide. I'm going to be teaching you from A to Z how to use lower time frame confirmations in your trading. I'm going to be doing this alongside a breakdown of a 1 to 7 risk to reward trade on GBP/USD, as you can see on screen, which was sent to my mentorship group as a signal. So if you guys do want to gain access to my signal and understand the strategies that I use to take these trades, make sure to check the mentorship with the link down below. It's a one-time fee of £120 and you gain access to all of the strategies, all of the signals, the Zoom calls, and all of those great things. But without further ado, let's get right into today's video. Alright everyone, so to get started, we're going to go through step 1 and we're going to get right into the strategy, which is, first of all, you have to find a higher time frame supply and a higher time frame demand zone, and this zone must be completely valid. Right, and so what makes a valid higher time frame supply and demand? Well, it's simple really. All you need to find is a supply demand zone or an order block, right, that has a break of structure going in its favor. So if I was looking at a supply zone, I would need to see a break of structure towards the downside. So for example, right there. And the second thing that I need to see is an area of imbalance after the zone is created. So you can see that we have our supply zone here. Following the supply zone, I need to see a volume increase or just some sort of fair value gap over here, right? The third thing I need to see is, which maybe not a lot of you have heard of, is just a liquidity sweep, right? So before the actual creation of my supply zone, I need to see some sort of liquidity being swept, whether that is some sort of trendline liquidity, for example, over here, or whether that's a high being swept over here, or whether it's these relative equal highs that are being swept. I need to see some sort of liquidity sweep. And the fourth thing is no mitigation. So this supply zone has never been mitigated before. There are clearly no taps back into the zone and it's completely untouched, right? These are the 4 key rules that I'm using in order to identify my higher time frame supply and demand zones, which are completely valid, right? That is the key thing. Okay, but yeah, that is all you really need for the higher time frame and for step 1. So we'll now move on to step 2. And that is, once price has entered your higher time frame zone, you head over to the lower time frame for a liquidity sweep and a market structure shift, right? Previously, you may have just waited for price to tap in and you may have gone shorts, right, instantly off of the higher time frame. Again, I would not recommend doing that because there is no lower time frame confirmation. Or maybe previously you wait for price to tap in and then wait for it to sell off a bit. And then once you see sort of a break of structure, you'll enter from a supply zone over here. Again, I wait for a liquidity sweep inside the actual zone, right? Liquidity and liquidity sweeps are the most logical and easiest things to go through to increase your win rate in today's trading, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for price to come into my actual higher time frame zone. And I'm going to wait for price to do its thing, create some sort of liquidity. So for example, here we have relative equal highs. I'm going to wait for price to grab these equal highs. And after I can see this liquidity sweep, I'm going to wait for my market structure shift, or, a change of character, whatever you want to call it. And then that is my sort of lower time frame confirmation, right? And all I need to see for the market structure shift is that the low which actually caused the break of structure towards the upside here, or the low which actually caused the liquidity sweep, I just need to see that low being being ran through, right? So here is a break of structure of this low, here is the liquidity sweep, and here is the move which created all of that. So essentially what I have here is a liquidity sweep and a market structure shift. This is what I need to see on the lower time frame inside of this higher time frame zone. Okay, so that is all step 2 is. Then we move on to step 3. Step 3 is simply, after you see your market structure shift, enter from a supply and demand zone or a fair value gap. Right, keep in mind all of this is going to be executed on the lower time frame. So perhaps right now we're on the 10-minute, right? And all of this has been going on the 10-minute time frame. So even the previous, the previous slide. So even this slide, all of this is on the 10-minute time frame, right? So now, again, on like the 10-minute, 5-minute, 15-minute, we're just going to scan for a supply and demand zone. So in this example, it will be a supply zone or an area of fair value gap. And then we will enter shorts from there. Do make sure it is the most sort of extreme level, right? Because you don't want to be entering too sort of poorly in this range, right? So if you had a range from here to here, you might want to get your Fibonacci in and see where your premium levels are, and that will help you gain the best sort of entries. But yeah, guys, that is the 3-step process. This video is really simple. This is the 3-step process that you want to be taking on the lower time frame when you're trading off of a higher time frame supply and demand zone, right? Again, you find your valid zone, you look for your liquidity sweep, and then your market structure shift, and then you simply wait for a entry from supply and demand on the lower time frame, right? It's an easy 3-step process. Now that we've gone over that, we're going to go over the example on GBP/USD on the real life charts. And again, to remind you, this was sent as a signal, so make sure you check out the mentorship down below to gain an entry on those trades. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into today's trade. Alright everyone, so here I am on the 2-hour time frame on GBP/USD. The first step we're going to go through is, of course, our selection of our higher time frame supply or demand zone. And as you can see here on GBP/USD, we are clearly, bearish, right? I've got some sort of weekly bias here. I think it's on the weekly supply here, right? And so I hopped onto the 2-hour, and you can just see the consistent break of structures here on GBP/USD, indicating clear bearish order flow, right? So our next supply zone that price is going to come and mitigate is this supply zone over here, right? And this supply zone is, clearly valid, and I'm going to point that out to you now. So we're going to be looking for 4 things, right? Thing number 1 is, of course, a break of structure, which we can see here. And I will just label that my BOS. Next thing we go for is our fair value gap. And that is right here very, very clearly. Here, just that level of imbalance, this area of fair value gap. And then number 3, this is clearly unmitigated. Price has yet to tap into this 2-hour zone. So yeah, that's completely fine. And step number 4 is whether there is a liquidity sweep before this zone was created. And I went on to 30 minutes to check this, and you can clearly see here that price swept these trendline liquidity, and it swept this high as well here. Okay, so we have a clear liquidity sweep, and that you can see that this is a trick to tell if your liquidity sweep is valid or not. If price increases in volume after the liquidity is swept, right? You can clearly see here that sharp increase in momentum, telling me that this liquidity sweep is valid. Okay, now I have all 4 rules pointing to this being a valid level of supply. Just because this supply zone is valid, it doesn't mean I can just go aggressive from here and just take an entry. No, I have to wait for a lower time frame confirmation, because this is going to be the thing that significantly increases my strike rate and win rate, right? Now I can just search for some extra confluences. So for example, here we have this area of liquidity, and if I get my Fibonacci from the top of this range, you can clearly see here we're lining up with the premium levels. Okay, so this is definitely the most valid supply zone that I want to trade from and find a lower time frame confirmation zone from. So step 1 done. Now we go on to the lower time frame and we wait for step 2. So what we do is we wait for price to tap in, and I'll head over to like the 5-minute time frame, and I'll wait to see what happens. So first things first, as you guys can see, we have tapped into the zone, right, on the 3-minute time frame. I can clearly see that we have this supply zone here. I am not going to trade from it yet, because I am yet to see what I sort of need to see, right? I'm yet to see a liquidity sweep. I'm yet to see any of those things, right? So I'm not going to be trading off of this just yet, right? So I'm going to wait for price to do its thing, and I can start to see that price is maybe generating some liquidity here. Continue to play this out, right? As you guys can see here, what did we see? We saw price coming in, making these equal highs, and after price made those equal highs, what happened? Price swept those equal highs. So what we can say here is that here is our liquidity sweep of these relative equal highs. This is all throughout my zone on the 2-hour, right? I'm yet to take any entries yet. So people may have been faked out by this over here and taken an entry from here, and they would have gotten stopped out, right? But I waited, and I wait for this liquidity sweep, right? And then after I see this liquidity sweep, I'm going to be looking for the low which caused this move, and that is this low over here. And I'm going to wait for price to sweep this low. Okay? And there you go. Price sweeps this low, right? It takes out this low, giving me a market structure shift, and now I can start looking for entries, right? So you could have went off of this 15-minute level of supply here, right? So now we're going on to step 3, because step 2 is we saw our liquidity sweep. So we saw these 5-minute equal highs, the liquidity was swept, and then we saw our market structure shift because we broke through the lows, which caused this move to happen. Okay, so now we can simply go for our supply zone. So you could maybe refine it all the way down to here, but I'd say that's quite risky. Or you can just keep it on this 15-minute level over here, right? It's completely up to you. We can do both entries, right? Now that we've seen that, right, and I've seen my market structure shift, I've seen all of that, we move on to step 3. We're selecting the most sort of extreme level of supply and demand, and I will enter from over here. Targets can just simply be at this level of sort of demand, or this like imbalance just over here. Yeah, and that works for me, guys. So essentially, this is my entry for GBP USD on the lower time frame confirmation. We have gone through all of the steps of A, finding the right supply zone, B, waiting for our liquidity sweep and market structure shift, and then 3, entering off of the right supply zone, okay, on the lower time frame, that is. So now I've found all of my steps. It's just a waiting game, and we're gonna see what happens to this trade. It does take a while, but we do end up getting triggered. As I mentioned, it got triggered during just after London, start of like New Yorkish, right? So that would have been ideal. You can see here it eventually comes over and hits take profit. Okay, so you could have easily managed this trade and probably scaled in another entry, or another couple entries over here as well. However, I went for just the single entry over here, and I secured a 1-7 risk reward trade, right? This is the 3 perfect steps to find a lower time frame confirmation going forward with my trading strategy. All of the members in my Discord already know how to take lower time frame confirmation strategies, and they will all had access to this signal. So make sure to check out my mentorship down below. But hopefully you guys benefited from this video and you took something from it. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.